Directed by Alan Smithee, it's the DigiGods. Please welcome two guys who've hit the mic. It's Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Yeah, we don't see too many Alan Smithies anymore, do we? Corey, that's clearly somebody that knows their stuff. Who sent that one in for us?
That was sent in by Lorenzo Raffa. The end.
Yeah, the end. When was the last time there was an Alan Smithee? I think everybody's so hip to that. Everyone's so inside baseball now that they're using pseudonyms they're just using pseudonyms.
Yeah, now they just use regular.
Yeah.
But Alan Smithee was the one that was approved by the DGA.
Yeah. Wow, it's a bummer.
What, that Alan Smithee was approved by the DGA?
No, I just, I used to look forward to seeing an Alan Smithee on a film. It made you kind of look forward. It was a sign, right? It was like a code. It was like a little private inside code. It was like, oh, this is going to suck in a glorious, wonderful, beautiful way. And then now they don't use it anymore. So
now movies can suck with people using their real name.
I don't get that code ahead of time. It's like,
You like the fact that it was like an insider thing that you knew about and other people did not.
Yeah, it's like you're on a runaway train and there's a guy that's like, danger ahead, and he's signaling you. And you're like, oh, sweet, we're going to go off a cliff. And you knew that going in.
Speaking of which, Runaway Train, they're remaking Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes, they are.
With Kenneth Branagh entertainingly directing it.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Very good choice. I think that's
at least it's not like Michael Bay or something, at least.
And yet, my favorite Kenneth Branagh film of all time is still not on DVD or on Blu-ray.
Don't say dead again.
Midwinter's Tale.
Oh.
Midwinter's Tale, which is just outrageously funny. I mean, that thing is so, in black and white, it's just so funny. Cream of the crop of, by the way, and I'm doing a sideways thing, by the way, from that, because that just reminded me of Ab Fab, because Julia Sawalha is in Midwinter's Tale. So the Ab Fab movie soundtrack is out. I've only heard the one track. Kylie Minogue doing the Wheels on Fire theme song for Ab Fab. Have you heard it?
Oh, are you kidding me? It's
you're not into Ab Fab.
No.
How are you not into Ab Fab?
That thing, it seems like the British Sex and the City. Is that what it is? It's like the British middle-aged Sex and the City?
It's like yes, kind of, except it's like a British middle-aged Sex and the City with two women who have much lower IQs, absolutely no morals whatsoever, and an unapologetic substance abuse problem. Does that make sense? It's so funny.
Fantastic.
It's the best. It's so. I know the term politically correct and incorrect has become too much of a buzz thing, but it is so politically incorrect. I mean, look, there's one episode where they go to Morocco and Jennifer Saunders, her daughter, played by Julia Sawalha, they basically try to leave her daughter, who's grown, try to leave her behind. They try to sell her into white slavery in Morocco so that they can actually, go shopping. It's hysterical.
See, that's funny.
It's great. But that's, nobody can get away with that stuff here anymore. So anyway, a little bit of housekeeping really quickly. So I made a mistake some weeks ago when I was we talked about some Flickr Alley titles on a couple of subsequent weeks. I said that Woman on the Run and Too Late for Tears were MOD, Manufacturer on Demand, Blu-ray, burnable Blu-rays. Not true. I got it mixed up. It's Timothy's Quest and Poet and Publisher, which is all about with Robert Frost and a publisher is known by the company he keeps. Those two films on that one, both from 1961. So it's Timothy's Quest and Poet and Publisher. Those are the MOD titles. Woman on the Run and Too Late for Tears. Great classic noir-y stuff there. Both of those fully pressed, always available. So those are the ones, and those are Blu-ray DVD combo sets. So my apologies to the people at Flickr Alley. I wanted to get my notes correct on that. And, of course, if you want to email us or send us any Vox boxes, do so at gods@digigods.com, gods@digigods.com. And I guess this week you and Kim will be getting busy on some website stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be a long process.
It's not going to be that long, though.
No, it's going to be a long process.
Yeah, well,
because we have to go back and forth with Kim and tell her what we want. Then she's got to design it. Then we give her notes.
And then she's got to look at the stuff that I did and laugh.
Entire website. And then she's got to build all the code. And then she's got to look at we got to look at the design. Then I got to give her notes.
Okay.
Then she's got to incorporate the notes.
Okay.
It's going to take it'll take months, a couple of months.
Maybe. Could be faster.
If we had more than one person working on it, sure.
Yeah, well okay. Anyway.
One person working on it.
Anyway, she'll do a good job.
I'm not saying she won't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it'll take a while.
Yeah, it'll take a while. Well, we'll I bet you it'll be faster than you think.
Well, it'll be faster if we get her the answer she needs.
Correct. Yes.
If it takes us a week to get back to her when she has a question, yes, it'll take months, if not years.
Well, anyway.
Tell me I'm wrong.
So I saw, now that we can talk about, with IGN, we can never really kind of spill beans on anything, but I saw Finding Dory yesterday.
Which I passed on because it was at 10 a.m. and I was not going to do that.
But, my daughter has only seen Shaun the Sheep in theater. That's her only theatrical experience so far, and she saw it 4 times. So we wanted to at least, is it the El Capitan? I mean, the El Capitan, Hollywood's that whole section of Hollywood Boulevard is like, Times Square now.
I hate that theater.
The El Capitan?
Oh, it's the worst.
Why?
The theaters, the seats are too small. The seats are they're narrow and uncomfortable. They are narrow and uncomfortable.
Well, okay, it's a beautiful, classic old movie palace.
And
though.
I wish they could rip out about 100 seats or 200 seats and make every remaining seat a little bit wider. Well, and I'm not a heavy guy, but I'm just saying that it's uncomfortable.
You got the guy playing the organ beforehand, and he
too
sinks
loud.
into the floor.
Too loud.
And
Sinks into the floor is cool.
It sinks into the floor.
Okay, organ guy too loud. Seats too narrow. I mean, it's very uncomfortable. You can't cross your legs. You can't.
Anyway.
It's like sitting in an airplane.
So we take my daughter to see this, and she has never seen Finding Nemo, but she loves fish. She can't get enough of fish, Little Mermaid and Flounder and all that. So we take her to see Dory. She already knows who Dory is. We primed her on that. She's very excited about Dory and sharks and whales and everything. And, of course, there is some scary stuff. She cried. Some very emotional stuff. I have a very sensitive little girl. She cried. But on balance, she absolutely adored it and would not stop talking about Dory for the rest of the day. And Ellen DeGeneres, wonderful, fantastic. I'm very impressed that they took a minor character that's basically a one-note joke and were able to build a movie around that character in a very compelling and emotionally moving way. The people at Pixar really, Andrew Stanton did a number on this one. He really did. He's the man. This is Welcome Back. This is his Welcome Back movie. Andrew Stanton on top of the world.
The thing with Disney is that if you look at Pixar and if you look at Marvel, with the exception of probably Cars 2, I mean, they have not had an outright dud.
And Cars 2 still made money, by the way. I mean, you've had a few Disney films, like The Last Dinosaur. That was also kind of a Pixar dud, but that made money too.
Yeah.
That also made money.
Well, Dinosaurs was really...
Dinosaurs, The Last Dinosaur, just this last year.
Right, that one was really for kids. That was for little kids.
Little kids, correct, yes.
And the other ones, at least...
Dinosaur, yeah.
At least adults can get some satisfaction out of all the other Pixar films.
Yeah, true.
But I actually they sent me a screener for Dinosaurs. I stopped watching because it was just too juvenile.
No Pixar movie has ever lost money. They have all been massively profitable or really profitable.
And good.
And good. And the ones that even Cars 2, which, has problems and people by and large disliked, it still made a gigantic ton of money. It was, I think, on balance, probably more profitable than Cars. So, and they sold toys too. I mean, Pixar is a cha-ching machine over there. That's why they give them so much latitude.
That's the thing. If you're Disney, you cannot be giving script notes to Pixar.
No,
they should be completely autonomous.
And then Disney Animation, which John Lasseter also oversees, they're autonomous as well. And they just had Zootopia. They're going to get even more autonomous. You kidding me?
Now Zootopia, it's
a $1 billion juggernaut.
But Zootopia, that was a surprise.
Total surprise.
That I had no faith in that.
I didn't either. But when you consider that Disney Animation now has delivered back-to-back Frozen and Zootopia, both of which overperformed by like 3,000%, that's insane. I mean, that is a juggernaut over there. The animation machine is just unstoppable. Disney is they're just and I'm not necessarily a Robert Iger fan. I was always a fan of Katzenberg and Eisner, and I liked what they were doing. But I'll tell you, what Iger's doing, man, it's working. It's working. I give the guy credit. He's We'll see what the Star Wars theme park is going to turn out like. My goodness, there's no stopping Disney now.
Well, let's see if Rogue One stops Disney now.
Well, we'll see. They're not going to stop building the theme park.
No, but that's going to be very...
The reshoots?
They're reshooting like half the movie.
Yeah, well, they're reshooting a lot. I don't know if it's half the movie. There's a lot of different rumors spinning around, but it's... I find that... what I found, and I mentioned this on the Facebook thread as well, what I find interesting about the Rogue One thing is less the thing that, oh my gosh, the movie has problems, let's go do reshoots, but more that Disney's messaging was so undisciplined. that you had executives from Disney saying, "Oh yeah, it's problems, it's crap." You're like, wait a minute, hold on. That never happened at Disney before. You're supposed to have your people all, it's like a political campaign. Same message. You go out there in front of the press. You go, it's good, but we think we can make it better. Well, it's normal to do reshoots. Nothing to be worried about. It's just this is the way that you get a great film, and we raise the bar with the previous Star Wars film. We want to make sure that we meet that bar, and we're raising the bar all the time, and we want these films to keep getting better and better. And it's all about the fans. Look, I just made that up off the top of my head. You telling me that corporate publicity at Disney couldn't come up with something like that and then give it to everybody and say these are your talking points?
Yeah, that's the
Holy
thing.
cow! Come on.
Disney is so tight as a drum. You never hear about internal leaks. You never hear about some screening that went poorly. And I heard this sucks. You never hear that about a Disney film.
So what happened with Rogue One?
I have no idea.
Isn't that weird?
No idea.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't think JJ's overseeing that film very closely because JJ runs a tight ship. Mm-hmm. I mean, a really tight ship. Like, plot details never leak.
Well, they're all the same with Pixar.
Yeah.
Pixar, even Avengers, even the Avengers films, the Marvel films. Sometimes they'll seed out somebody in costume or maybe a plot point. Who's he going to play? But generally speaking, it's a really tight ship over there. So I don't know what happened with Rogue One.
Okay, so I'm going to... there was a bunch of anime left over from last week. I got a gigantic, massive pile of anime. I'm going to break it up into bits on the show. I got some listener mail as well. Gods@digigods.com is where you hit us. And so I'm going to blow through some anime real quickly and then blow through the rest of it later in the show. So let me start off here with... Transformers, Robots in Disguise, Season 1. Transformers shows is about as many of these as there are Power Rangers shows. Not quite, but close to. So if you keep up with these things, Robots in Disguise, pretty kind of a standard Transformers series. This is one of the more recent ones. And it's fine. It's exactly what you'd expect. And the bonus features on here are really what's interesting. Featurettes, and then there's some stuff from the 2015 San Diego Comic-Con International panel, which will be of interest primarily to Transformers fanatics. And, of course, Transformers is sort of nominally anime. It's just anime-inspired, but otherwise. Anyway, and then we got a couple titles here from Made in Japan, who is distributed by Section 13. Gunbuster, the movie. I'm not familiar with the world of Gunbuster, but it's fine. It's spacefaring robot suit stuff. It fits in with that whole genre. That's on Blu-ray. Vampire Princess Miyu, the complete TV series, beautiful, beautiful animation. The vampire stuff in anime it's not really Western vampire. If you're familiar with Vampire Hunter D, you kind of know how they treat it. It's all rather romanticized, but this is lovely, lovely animation. Great color, great artwork, really, really cool. And then from Sente, a bunch of stuff from Sente. Bodacious Space Pirates, Abyss of Hyperspace. I don't know what it is with space pirates and anime, but they just love all that space piratey stuff. They can't get enough of it. Fairy Tail is up on that too, and they all have kind of that vibe. Anyway, space pirates. The whole idea of projecting things nautical, Earth and nautical into space, which Space Cruiser Yamato does as well. This is fine, adventurous and decent enough. That's on Blu-ray. Then we've got Love Stage, ! Or double exclamation point, complete collection. Also from Sente. This is on Blu-ray. Not my speed. This is one of those teen-oriented, college-age, young adulty kind of the politics. It's like if John Hughes made anime. I don't know. I don't quite. It's not my speed. Don't really understand it. I guess it has some appeal in Japanese culture. Yamishibai, Japanese Ghost Stories. Pretty cool. Really, really awesome. This is seasons 1 and 2. And really, really unbelievable animation. Totally unusual. Completely off the charts. Not at all like anything anime you've ever seen. Japanese ghost stories are great if you're familiar with anything like from the Ring, from Ringu to The Grudge, all that stuff, as well as things that I love like Kwaidan, the classic old Kobayashi film. All that stuff. It all plays into Japanese ghost story lore, and putting this into the world of anime with this kind of really cool watercolory animation, very, very, very interesting. Really, I don't really know what's going on here. I'm not sure it really justifies a series, but it's pretty great. Space Brothers continues to be a really, really popular anime series. We got Collection 7 and Collection 8 here. I'm just going to make mention really quickly of 8 because the cover is something that I'm going to get a reaction out of Mark on. Mark, what would you think if you saw Space Brothers Collection 8 on the cover?
Oh.
See?
It's a puppy in a spacesuit. Yeah, wait a second, but is he drifting out into space to die forever?
Perhaps. Would that make you sad?
Yeah, because it's a puppy in a spacesuit. Oh, stupid puppy.
Yeah, puppy in a spacesuit. It's the cutest cover they've had yet. Also, Blu-ray from Sente Filmworks, Season 2 of Log Horizon. 13 episodes. I'm middling on this. This is this is fantasy realm stuff. Like all of them, unless you're already into it, I'm unfamiliar with season 1, so I felt like watch one episode, you're not really up to speed, couldn't really get with it. There is a horrific kind of dystopian theme to When They Cry. This is season 2, 24 episodes on 4 discs. The world basically coming apart at the seams, has a lot of that World War Z / Mad Max / Return of the Archons, Landru, Are You of the Body festival. That whole thing. There's a lot of that going on. You're laughing because we are such Star Trek nerds that you immediately understood what I was talking about.
They for the Star Trek show that's coming on CBS, they hired a couple of other vets from Next Generation.
Yeah, that made me happy. That means that there's somebody who at least kind of has a grip on the lore. That'll work.
I trust Nicholas Meyer. I trust Nick Meyer.
I don't.
Really?
We'll get into that later. More of this teen stuff.
Let's just make this a Star Trek nerd show.
Yeah, we should. More of that teen stuff on this 3-disc set. 25 episodes of From the New World from Sente. Cute girls are a crucial part of Japanese anime. In this case, it's like this weird utopian world, and it's a little bit like Brave New World, and maybe a touch of Logan's Run here as well. But it almost feels like Clueless or Sex and the City or Square Pegs or something dropped into Logan's Run. I don't know. It's very strange. But good animation, very interesting, and at least aggressive in that respect. And then the last few titles I'll make quick mention of. Couple of, three Blu-rays and 3 DVDs here. Pet Shop of Horrors from Sente Filmworks. Also kind of very phantasmagorical animation. More about the animation than the stories. It's worth checking out. Less interesting Anime Elements line from Nozomi. This is El Hazard, The Wanderers. Decent adventure stuff, but kind of old school animation. I'm not that keen on it. And if you're into the whole Gundam thing, from the Sunrise line of the Right Stuff is After War Gundam X. The whole Gundam world. It's just more giant spacesuit robot stuff. It is what it is. The whole Gundam thing is Robo whatever, fill in the blanks, Transformers, and Get to Robo and all that stuff. They're making a film out of the whole series of the big robot series.
Oh yeah, Voltron.
Not Voltron, the other one, the big
Transformers.
No,
Star Wars.
No.
I don't know.
No, it's the other. The title's slipping.
Don't stop the recording.
I'm not going to. Anyway, Gundam, part of that whole deal. Okay, yeah, and then the last 3 here, Sente, Medaka Box, Season 1 and Season 2 in a complete collection. That'll make some people happy. It's crazy stuff. And then Wake Up Girls, the movie. Yay! They're all wearing schoolgirl uniforms. They're jumping. Yippee! It's very fetishistic. And then lastly, Mobile Suit Gundam Z. More of that stuff on Blu-ray. This is Season 1. And, it's freaking Gundam. It's the big suit. That would make a ton of money if they actually did a live-action version of Gundam something. At least even in Japan, it would just make a ton of money. You could really do that, all that Transformers animation.
I think like Pacific Rim is becoming that thing because
Yeah,
they're
it
making a
is.
Pacific Rim sequel.
I know.
With
And
John Boyega.
he's going to be, yeah. It's pretty great.
He's
the man now. He's the man.
You know why? Okay, I like Pacific Rim. It was one of those movies that was just so loud and obnoxious and just overbearing and 1,000 decibels that I just couldn't help but be hypnotized by it.
Yep.
I just wish that one of the big climactic fights that happened during the day. I hate when these big fights happen at night, like they're trying to hide stuff.
They're trying to hide
They
CGI.
Used to do it so that you could hide the wires. Yeah. Now you do it to hide the CGI. And so everything is so murky and hard to see. And I want to see the big robots fighting, but it's at night. I don't like that, Wade.
Well,
tell them to stop doing that.
I understand, and that was the big complaint about the film was that it was always raining. It was night and it was raining, and nobody could actually see anything. You couldn't see the monsters
murky.
and the robots fighting. But I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
No, I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
That annoyed me.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what else annoys me?
What?
Imagine Dragons.
Yes.
Now, Imagine Dragons, they're a band from Las Vegas, and it would be, considering that rock and roll is a little bit on the downslide right now, you'd think I'd be into Imagine Dragons, but I'm kind of not. They got this like funky dubstep thing going on too that I never really latched on to, but the kids love the Imagine Dragons, and right now we've got a Blu-ray and CD called Imagine Dragons Smoke and Mirrors Live. Now, the show, which of course I have not seen, looks pretty amazing, I have to say, at least based on this Blu-ray. The concert here is from July of 2015 in Toronto. So if you're a fan of Imagine Dragons, you may want to go for it because it looks great, sounds great, and, again, I love bands that carry the mantle for rock, which is on the downslide right now, but I'm not a big fan of Imagine Dragons. I'm a bigger fan of the Grand Ballroom. Now, the Grand Ballroom, if you do not know, is kind of a legendary live music concert hall in Detroit. And they had their heyday in the 60s and 70s, really. And back then, they hosted some amazing acts at the Grand Ballroom, including Led Zeppelin and Janis Joplin and blues guys like Howlin' Wolf and John Lee Hooker and Jeff Beck and also other stuff, people like the Grateful Dead and The Who. And it's just a really cool venue, and there's a documentary on DVD called Louder Than Love, the Grand Ballroom Story, and it's all about the Grand Ballroom and how it got built and all the great bands that played in it. So if you are, and it's funny because at the time this was going on in the 60s, it was all about it was all the Summer of Love in California. It was all the Beach Boys, right?
Yeah,
that kind of sound.
Yeah.
But while that was going on in California, in Detroit, you had that, that Grand Ballroom sound where you've got, folks like the MC5 and the Stooges, and they were kind of, working out their stuff in that area too, and they passed through this venue. So Louder Than Love is, if you're a rock fan, is a terrific documentary, very detailed, very intimate, great interviews. You'll learn a lot about the history of rock and roll, at least as it relates to Detroit. So I would recommend Louder Than Love. I would also recommend East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem. This is David Broza is a guy, he's an Israeli singer-songwriter, and he had this, as artists often do, he had this dream of uniting Palestinians and Israelis through music.
Yeah, that's
so there was a,
I think the whole world is like, yeah, that's going to happen.
First it was a CD called East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem, and now it's a DVD called East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem. 8 days and 8 nights of music, food, and camaraderie. And Steve Earle is in it too. If you love rock, you know who Steve Earle is. And look, I found this thing fascinating, inspirational, getting these people together to bond over music. Will it have any effect on the world? Of course not, because all these people did their music. All these fans saw the show, then went home and started hating each other again.
Yeah, well,
that's how
at
it
least
goes.
You know what? Bravo for him, though. Seriously, bravo for him.
Of course.
All right, new movies. Got some interesting new stuff coming out. Got a couple of animated films here. The first one, I'm going to just say really quickly, is pretty negligible. It's called Quackers, Quackerz, Quackers. And the tagline, Mark, you got to read the tagline. It's so clever. What do they say about Quackers?
That's like the most hack duck joke ever.
What?
They'll quack you up.
Oh, that's the best. That's so clever.
Why would they do? Who is this? Shout Kids?
Yeah, I mean, it's not horrendous. It's if you're, you have like a 3 or 4 year old like I do, they'll probably enjoy this well enough. It's fine. All the animation is Eastern European. They spent like $150 having somebody in Bulgaria or Russia or Ukraine do all the animation, and it's fine. You can do this at pretty much anywhere. But the whole thing is I don't want to say it is better than the Angry Birds movie, but that's not saying much. It's kind of a similar concept with these anthropomorphic ducks and birds and having a sort of a bird conflict. It's silly and it's rather juvenile, but you know what? I've seen worse. So whatever, take it as you will. This is a 3D Blu-ray for those who still think that watching animation in 3D is going to make a difference. Your kids aren't going to want to wear the glasses, but it's there. It's Quackers with a Z.
What's this?
But
what is this?
That's the persuasion that came with Cloverfield. I'll let you address that in just a moment.
Persuasion?
Yeah.
Is that a new word for swag?
Yeah.
Did you make that up?
No.
That's the persuasion?
They're called persuasions.
No, it's not.
Yes, they are.
It is not.
You did not know that?
I swear to God.
How long have you been in this business?
25 years. They don't call it that's the persuasion?
Persuasion.
Like it's a noun now. That is a noun.
When the Academy sends swag to members to persuade them to vote for a particular film or at least consider it, those are called persuasions.
No one's ever said that.
You're kidding.
I swear to God, no one's ever said that. I've never heard that in the history of my life.
Wow. All right.
Okay. Next week, we are interviewing. We have a special interview now. Next week's show.
Yes, we do.
Our good friend Tim Cogshell, who you've heard on the show before and have enjoyed thoroughly.
Yes.
I'm going to ask Tim Cogshell. I'll keep this. I'm going to keep this bag with the little puzzle pieces in it. I'm going to say, Tim, have you ever heard of these things being called persuasions?
Yeah. We'll do that.
And I'm going to see what he says.
Okay.
He'll say, well, it depends. He's known you longer, so he may say yes just to agree with you.
All right. Well, in any case, the other animated show this week, the other animated movie on Blu-ray and DVD with a digital HD of the Disney movies variety, not the ultraviolet, is Zootopia from Disney Animation. The same people who brought you Frozen and Tangled. And I got to say, man, Zootopia, I had to review this for radio, and I went into thinking, oh, this is going to be stupid. I walked out so in love with this movie. This is one of the best animated films I've ever seen in my life. It's not for kids, though. It's basically a noir. They basically did a Disney animated noir with animals that is so detailed and so well thought out and so clever. I mean, this is like the best noir I've seen since Blood Simple. Really, it's fantastic. This movie is amazing. And if you don't know, it's basically about a little female bunny who wants to be in the anthropomorphic animal world. She wants to be a cop and keeps getting these, crap assignments. And then winds up stumbling onto like a really big story, a big lead, a big crime thing going on and seeing where it leads. And there's this fox con man, voiced by Jason Bateman, that she makes her partner, reluctant partner. So it's like a mismatched buddy cop film. And it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. The voice talent is just awesome. Jennifer Goodwin does the bunny, and it's just wonderful. Everything about this thing is wonderful. It has references. It's all meta about other movies, and there are cool little in references and great little clever detailed jokes. And it's amazing. This thing's made over $1 billion worldwide. It's a huge hit. It just keeps on marching. And I wouldn't be surprised if we franchise this thing and get a few more. Zootopia 2 is definitely on the way, and I kind of can't wait. So I love Zootopia. Loaded up with extras, too. Lots of behind-the-scenes stuff, featurette stuff, deleted scenes. Really, really fun. You get to see a lot of work on how, like characters that were originally conceived didn't wind up being in the movie. All the work that sort of went into this that has to get cut away because you can't put everything in. You got to kill your babies. Great movie, Zootopia, Blu-ray with the Disney Anywhere their version of Ultraviolet.
Wade Major, everyone.
Love it,
Zootopia. On the Disney bandwagon.
On it. First Dory, now Zootopia. I'm so on. I'm down with Disney today.
I know. I'm really disappointed in you.
Yeah. All right, Mark, tell us why as a fan of Cloverfield,
yes.
which obviously, because it was directed by a friend of ours, and made by several friends of ours, but as a fan of Cloverfield, I was reluctant, and I chose to not see this thing because it just looked like, let's just try to go to that well again and pointlessly. Why should I have seen this movie?
10 Cloverfield Lane, terrific, surprisingly
so hard for me to
good.
believe.
And I'll tell you why it's surprisingly good, because it does things that these sorts of films never do, which is it's all about suspense. John Goodman is just this mountainous man of of mysterious motives where you don't know what
That
he
was
has in
good.
store.
Mountainous man of mysterious motives. That is some of the coolest alliteration you have done on this show.
Thank you very much.
I'm really impressed.
And by the way, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, by the way?
Yeah.
Delicious.
Okay.
She's on the delicious list.
Yeah.
I think she's great. Anyway, it almost reminds me of like a Orson Welles radio play from the 30s, where it's not about boo scares. You spend the whole movie wondering what motives this guy John Goodman has, and it ratchets it up. The only bad thing I'll say about it is that I think that the director, who did a terrific job, this guy Trachtenberg, he overplays his hand a little bit at the end. The climax is a little too much. I won't give anything away, but there's just too much. But I just think this thing will make you sit and squirm and not feel cheated. The scares aren't cheap. It's terrifying. It's claustrophobic. It focuses on the characters. She's a terrific, a terrific heroine. She's smart. I just think this thing was terrific. I was very surprised. I wasn't reviewing it.
Yeah.
I wasn't writing about it. I just wanted to see it because I was waiting out traffic or something. Kill a couple hours while traffic dies down. But in the end, I just think this thing has a surprising amount of restraint and confidence when you consider what it could have been.
All right, fair enough.
I'm very on board with 10 Cloverfield Lane, and the Blu-ray itself is fine. There's a commentary with Dan Trachtenberg, and also J.J. Abrams is on there too. A couple of featurettes. So 10 Cloverfield Lane, that's a winner. Winner.
Wow. Well, I guess I'll have to watch it now. All right, and then a couple of Guys with Guns movies. Let's go into the pointless one first. Gridlocked, starring Dominic Purcell, along with a whole bunch of other really square-jawed, tough people like Vinnie Jones and Stephen Lang. Remember Stephen Lang? He's like the
he was the guy from Avatar.
And Avatar, it's like his big claim to fame.
He was going to be like the next Lee Ermey or that guy.
Yeah, he's doing the big sergeant thing, and then Danny Glover shows up in this as well. He's still got a square jaw. He still works. And Trish Stratus, she brings it up. She's the obligatory female in this, but otherwise it's Dominic Purcell just basically doing his tough dude badass role as a New York police SWAT guy, and he's been shot. He's mad. He's tough. He's uncontrolled, and now he's got to get this. He's got to look after this celebrity, this spoiled, pampered guy played by Cody Hackman. And boy, that they are not going to get along. But man, are they going to ever have to? When suddenly a Die Hard scenario erupts, and Stephen Lang is basically the guy who runs the whole. He's like the Alan Rickman of this thing, and the rest of it is pretty much by the numbers. It's fine. This is a magnet line film from Magnolia, and it's pretty standard action stuff. It's not incompetent, but there's nothing remarkable about it. Few featurettes, bloopers, deleted scenes, the usual. Now here's the gold one. Here's the gem. London Has Fallen.
The gem?
Oh my gosh, Mark. Did you see London Has Fallen?
No, I passed on that.
Did you see the first one, Olympus Has Fallen?
No, I'm not going to see that crap.
Okay.
We see 200 movies a year. Yeah. I got to pass on the ones I got to pass on.
So Olympus Has Fallen, right? It's you know the drill, right? It's Gerard Butler. He's a Secret Service agent, right? You know the whole thing. Aaron Eckhart. He's the president. He's a Secret Service. He's got to put himself on the line. President's taken hostage. That whole kind of a deal, right? Got to save the president. Yeah, the usual, right? Air Force One, and then there was another one with Jamie Foxx that was done around the same time. The Roland Emmerich thing.
Oh yeah, the one where I forgot the name.
Yeah, they actually that made more money.
Olympus Has Fallen. No,
that was anyway. Forget it. Whatever.
I'm going to find out what it is because I can't remember now.
So they came out about the same time, but they actually were like equally successful, except this one was made for less money, and so wound up basically being the smarter investment. And of course, you've got Morgan Freeman. White House Down. Thank you. Well, anyway, Morgan Freeman. So Morgan Freeman, being his usual very authoritative self. So here we are. Now we're in London, right? Now we're no longer in Washington. We're in London, and there's a gathering of world leaders. And so President Aaron Eckhart has to go there with, of course, his trusty Gerard Butler Secret Service detail, right? And Gerard Butler wants to retire now because his wife's expecting and he wants to be a father and a family. There's a whole thing, right? It's the last day at work.
Why even do that? It's so cliche.
It's so no.
It's like the 6 days before retirement cliche.
Oh, you have no idea how much better it gets. So And of course, the usual, right? You got Morgan Freeman. He's the vice president. He worked for like a day and a half just to do a few things on to look really like everything is really going to hell. And the same usual supporting cast. Okay, so giant terrorist strike in London, fully coordinated by some terrorist guy who has an axe to grind. I forget. I think he's like somewhere in the Middle East, Pakistan. Who knows where he is? But anyway, he's coordinating it from there, and they kill like every major world leader. They kill the prime minister of Italy. They kill the prime minister of Japan. They kill every world leader who is gathered there. They wind up killing them for this conference that they're having. And oh my gosh, now the president, he's on the run, and London is on lockdown, and Gerard Butler has got to be the badass who somehow coordinates this and gets him to the helicopter and gets them rescued. This is so spectacularly, wonderfully, beautifully, artfully, magnificently terrible. I just can't get enough of it. This movie is joy from the first frame to the last. This is one of those movies that is so bad. Honestly, I'm not sure I have laughed this hard at an actual intentional comedy in years. This is a riot. This is a laugh riot every 30 seconds. This film is just not to be believed how wonderful it is.
I'm not sure if that means I should watch it or not watch it.
It depends how much you love bad movies, because it is truly wonderfully, warmly, invitingly terrible. I can't describe it any other way. London Has Fallen is a masterpiece of unintentional comedy. It is. It is a masterpiece of unintentional comedy. Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultraviolet. Gotta rock on with that one. Gotta rock on with that big time.
Oh, Wade, let's go the complete opposite end of London Has Fallen and talk about the quietly devastating 45 years.
Yes.
How I love this movie. Now, here's the thing. For our audience, I can't really say that you're going to run out and watch a movie whose 2 stars, the combined ages of which are probably like 150. That's Tom Courtenay and Charlotte Rampling, who wound up being nominated for an Oscar. But I am telling you, man, this thing is just... We
gave her Best Actress.
We did. She's great. So this is a movie about a marriage that has been going on for 45 years. And there is a secret, I won't give much away, there is a secret that is slowly revealed in the marriage that creates, at least on her side, an imperceptible crack in her love for her husband and her opinion of the marriage.
Here's what I find interesting and what I don't find so interesting, and I'll let you finish on that. I find it interesting that it embraces and examines and tries to dissect the idea that there is no period of time that makes a relationship so stable that it cannot be rocked by the revelation of a possible betrayal of trust. That 45 years of this amazing marriage, and then she suddenly finds out that there may have been some little tiny thing where he was not as honest, or the marriage was not what she thought it was. And it just, that one little piece of information could potentially unravel everything positive from those other 45 years. I think that's a very interesting idea, and it's a great premise on which to sort of build a nice, sort of semi-two-hander character piece. That said, I just felt that the execution was really kind of plodding and lackluster.
Really?
Yeah.
I think but see, to me, part of its effectiveness is that plotting, because it's after 45 years, there's a certain monotony. I'm not saying the movie's monotonous, but there's a certain quiet monotony to a marriage when you've been around and together for 45 years. And these revelations are not like these gigantic, oh my God, you slept with a hooker when you were 20 years old. Yes, oh my God, you're Arnold Schwarzenegger and you got a whole separate family. It's not like that. And so you've got a husband and wife. They're I can't remember if they had children in the film, but they're basically alone in this English country house, and they just live by themselves. And they're older, and they don't. There's no histrionics. There's no gigantic shouting. They know who they are. They know what the marriage is about.
Yeah.
So they don't. I think that plotting is sort of how they play out their marriage. Their marriage is like that.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, for me, some of it is Andrew Haigh, the director, who has previously did Weekend. That was the last thing he directed in 2011, which I also thought had some of the same problems. He really dials it down, and I love dialed down movies generally, but I almost think he dials it down to where the
Didn't give you
drama.
enough.
It didn't give me enough.
I love the understatement. I thought it was great, and that last shot is so devastating.
It is. No, that's wonderful. There's some really great stuff.
When the aliens come down, it's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly, and pretty great. And Jeff Goldblum pops in, and
oh, wait a second. So have you gotten your invite to Independence Day?
I may have. It's been a frantic week. I got to go look at my emails and see what.
What? I haven't gotten it yet. You better not get yours.
Oh no! Well,
I'm still going.
I thought you had.
No, I have not.
But you got the Woody Allen film.
I did get the Woody Allen film, which you did not get.
I don't think so. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. I have to go check.
That's because I'm more awesome than you.
Forward that to me if you could, because I want to raise hell with somebody because I got to see that.
Maybe I will. Maybe
I just have a ton I got to see this week. I saw Tickled. I had to see Tickled for radio this week. Have you heard of Tickled?
No.
Oh my gosh. Most disturbing thing ever. It's a doc. It was at Sundance.
What's it about?
It's about a New Zealand journalist, a Kiwi journalist, a very well-known journalist there, he's looking for a story, and he stumbles across this thing online called competitive tickling, and he inquires at the production company that makes these tickling videos, and what he gets back is the most vitriolic, hateful, antagonistic, homophobic email that you could possibly imagine. Just calling him out and slandering him. It's just horrible.
Wait, so had he written the article?
No, he's just inquiring. He just says, "Hey, I'm a journalist and I saw this thing and I'm just curious and I want to know a little bit about more what you do." And then they just breathe fire all over him. And then, of course, naturally, being who he is, he's like, okay, now I really got to get to the bottom of this. And what he uncovers is so insanely, psychotically disturbing, you have no idea.
Is it a particular person, or is it the entire subculture?
Well, it's pretty much that the whole subculture is one person, but it is who that person is and how that person operates and the history of that person that is so unbelievably fascinating. It's a great doc, but man, is it disturbing. It's called Tickled. It's wow. Anyway, carry on.
The Other Side of the Doorway, one of those lame movies, horror films, supernatural, stupid. Don't rent it. Don't look at it. If it's in your local video store, burn your video store down. This is about a family. They have a young son. Young son dies, and the mother, very sad, learns of this, I guess it's this ancient ritual that will bring the son back to life so she can say goodbye to him properly. And so she travels to this temple, and there's like this doorway between worlds, and so it just gets completely ridiculous. And I got to say, this thing had a lot of cheap scares, a lot of boo moments that which is exactly what 10 Cloverfield Lane doesn't have. And I just think that was a lot of effort put into this film for absolutely no purpose, because this thing should not have even been remotely. I'm not sure if this ever got a theatrical, but it certainly doesn't deserve it. Jeremy Sisto is the only name in this you may know. And I pass on this.
All right, so I have very few areas of true expertise in films. Certainly Hong Kong martial arts films, big area of expertise. French New Wave. There are all kinds of areas. Like my areas of specialization, where I feel like I could write an actual book about a genre or a field or a thing. They are relatively few and far between, but one of them are Jesus movies. I have a particular compulsion about Jesus movies because they represent such a fascinating cross-section of different cultural perspectives and whatnot. All the way from, when you look at like Pasolini's The Gospel of St. Matthew to Scorsese's Last Temptation to Mel Gibson's The Passion of Christ. What those movies tell you is a lot less about Jesus and a great deal more about the individual filmmakers and their particular religious or non-religious attachment to the world and how they express it through film. So these things always fascinate me. And The Young Messiah recently came out from Focus Features, which is very interesting because the pedigree of this film is really curious. So Anne Rice, who is basically known for her vampire novels, also has a deep religious strain in her. And Anne Rice has had a very interesting relationship with Christianity. She's not affiliated with any particular sect or denomination at the moment. But she considers herself very attached to Christianity and very spiritual on a certain level, which is a little weird for somebody that writes occultish vampire movies. But she started to write a trilogy about the life of Christ, and only wrote 2 novels and basically then gave up and has no intention of ever finishing the trilogy. The first is the basis for this film. The Young Messiah is based on the first of those Anne Rice books, and it is co-written and directed by Cyrus Nowrasteh, who is an American of Persian extraction, who is most famous for the stoning of Soraya M. from a few years ago.
Very good film.
Which is a good film. It got a little bit melodramatic for me, a little bit exploitative at a certain point. But I was curious to see what he does here. And the bottom line is that, we've had a number of Jesus movies in recent years. Risen was one in just recent months with Joseph Fiennes, directed by Kevin Reynolds. It was a big pile of junk. And of course, there's also Last Days in the Desert, which is out right now with Ewan McGregor playing a much too old Jesus during his sojourn in the desert. So there are a lot of these being made right now. And I gotta say, this is pretty weak. I'm profoundly disappointed in this, and it's weak from the get-go. And it's weak partly because of how Anne Rice chooses to tell the story, because the story of Jesus, as anybody knows who has even a passing understanding of the Bible, is that you really don't know much about Jesus before age 12, and you know very little between age 12 and like age 31. So, you can pretty much write what you want. So as far as the early days of Jesus, after they fled and they went into Egypt, you can pretty much make up everything that you want. So Anne Rice does, and what's amazing is that she doesn't really have enough imagination to make up something better, because it's sort of lame. And Sean Bean plays a Roman centurion, and a lot of it's just they're bringing Jesus back, and Herod's son still wants to carry out the death sentence of his father, and he hears that this kid may be around, and it just kind of treads water a lot, and really tries to paint a picture of what it would be like if you're a little kid who is some kind of divine calling, but it never really sparks to anything. It's dramatically lackluster. It is religiously not very interesting, and really under-budgeted, I have to say. The relationship between Mary and Jesus and Joseph, it's not a very interesting family. So the film just does. Oh, and then there's this whole bit where the devil shows up with strangely blonde hair and weird eye makeup, and Jesus is the only person who can see him. Doesn't really. It's all kind of religious film cliche stuff. So not very interesting on any level whatsoever, unless you are a particular fan of the genre, then it may be worth watching. The commentary with Cyrus Nowrasteh and his wife, who co-wrote it with him, is decent. So as a rental, you may want to watch it to listen to the commentary to hear why they approached the story that they did. And then, of course, there's some deleted scenes and a featurette, and that's about it. But otherwise, it's Blu-ray, DVD, ultraviolet. But my enthusiasm for it is very, very lukewarm, if even that.
And yet you talked about it for 10 freaking minutes.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It was a film I was actually really curious to see. So,
Wade, there's a movie. Wade.
Yes, sir.
Stars Miles Teller, Anna Kendrick, Bryan Cranston. You're like, wow, this is going to be great. Miles Teller, Anna Kendrick with Bryan Cranston? Yeah. Unbelievable. Wade, that movie wound up being Get a Job, which was shot in 2012 and sat on a shelf until right now.
No.
And this movie is, as predictably, is terrible. Miles Teller played, and the funny thing about the movie is that obviously they wanted to tap into the whole thing of like millennial college graduates who trying to get a job, very uncertain job market in the early 21st century. And Teller plays a guy who was supposed to get a job with the LA Weekly. And we have many friends who write or have written for the LA Weekly. But it falls through, so he winds up going from dead-end job to dead-end job until he gets another job making corporate videos. And so this is the movie, and I have to say that this movie is just terrible. It is juvenile, and it barely qualifies as social satire. No brains at all in this thing. I can see how it's sat on the shelf. It's just a lame comedy that, and it's, what, Anna Kendrick, I think she does a lot of movies that suck.
Yeah, she really is throwing herself rather indiscriminately at a lot of projects, and some of them are they hit, like Mr. Wrong with Sam Rockwell was great.
But the George Clooney thing, come on, up in the air.
Yeah, but she's just working too much. She needs to kind of scale it back and be a little bit more discriminating, for sure. And then, boy, here's a strange misfire. Kill Your Friends, Nicholas Hoult, who should be picking better projects. I have a feeling that this was something that he did before the Mad Max film that really now has kind of put him onto a better track again for the first time since he was a kid, in About a Boy. But he should be doing better stuff than this. This is kind of a bargain basement American Psycho set in London with him as this talent scout who lives a rather hedonistic life and which winds up sort of pushing him to, well, as the title will tell you, kill your friends. As a talent scout, he just chooses to go into a dextery direction at a certain point. It's pretty exploitative. He's okay in it. He deserves better material, and hopefully he'll pick better material in the future. But it's on Blu-ray from Wellgo.
Wade, Mario Bava, who is a Italian director we often of the 70s mostly,
Yes.
who we often talk about, did a film called Rabid Dogs in 1974. It was kind of a dud, mostly because it was recut without Bava's permission. And that's never a good sign. And then now, in 2016, we have a remake. It's a French remake. It is a Rabid Dogs, and this one's a little bit better. What's interesting about the film is that it takes place mostly inside a car. Lambert Wilson, or probably Lambert Wilson, because he's all French and stuff. He plays a getaway driver. There's a bunch of armed bank robbers who have kidnapped him and his child and are some random, bystander on the street. And the whole thing just takes place in this one car. And, there's a film. So it's a little bit like Drive, and it's a little bit like the Tom Hardy thing that I love so much, whose name I can't remember. What's the Tom Hardy thing in the Skype? Steve, Mel. It's one name.
Yeah.
Locke.
Locke, yes. Thank you.
Okay, Locke I thought was fantastic. I'm so glad we gave Tom Hardy Best Actor for that. Totally deserved it. Drive, of course, put Nicholas Winding Refn on the map, and now, of course, he has fallen off the map. So it's kind of like that, but I would prefer those two films over Rabid Dogs. Sometimes it just feels like a bunch of loosely connected, weird little scenes more than like an actual, meaningful, purposeful drama. But still, there's some good stuff in here.
All right.
And there's a making of in here, which I thought was fine, and interviews with the cast, and of course, they mostly speak French.
And we got some Warner Archive stuff. Actually, a really interesting week in Warner Archive. 7 Miles from Alcatraz, which is a nice little old adventure adventure film with a decent cast. Directed by Eddie Dimitrick, who has been, used to teach at USC, taught some friends of ours, and most famous for informing on before the House Un-American Activities Committee, for which he was pilloried by his colleagues for many years. He did that along with Elia Kazan. He was, a Hollywood communist until he decided to turn against his friends and never really.
Who else did that too?
Huh.
So I was watching, not to derail the conversation, which I'm about to do. So I was watching Ball of Fire again, rewatching one of my favorite screwball comedies ever in the whole world. I love Ball of Fire with Gary Cooper and Barbara Stanwyck. Now, Barbara Stanwyck also named names.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
I did not know that. Barbara Stanwyck named names.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
Not a fan now. Don't like Barbara Stanwyck.
Well, anyway, this is obviously as you 7 Miles from Alcatraz, prison escape thing. But it winds up having an interesting little spy twist to it, which is, of the era, a little Nazi spy thing going on. It's fine, fair enough. Not one of Dimitrick's best films, certainly not a great film, but it was very kind of a typical RKO programmer from the period. It's worth checking out if you like the era. And then James Fitzpatrick's Travel Talks, Volume 1. There are 60 of these Technicolor shorts on here that Fitzpatrick did as, sort of programmer shorts, which you would see before a movie back for many, many years. And just about every MGM film for at least a decade had these travel talks in front of it, and they're lovely. He goes to all kinds of interesting locations and shoots a cool little Technicolor travel short. And they're wonderful. Most of it is stuff from the United States, but there's there's places in Alaska and Minnesota and Glacier National Park, but he goes elsewhere. I mean, he actually goes to Copenhagen and goes to Java, and there's some interesting other places that he goes to, and even Australia. So it's a little bit in South America. It's just a lot of really cool vintage travel short stuff, and it's nicely put together. Nice little golden age blast from the past. And then on Blu-ray, one of the rare Warner Archive Blu-ray releases, Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in Dark Passage. Not their best film together, but an irresistible pairing nonetheless. Directed by Delmer Daves, who also wrote, and then great music by Franz Waxman. It's a really just a solid film noir. Not a classic film noir, but a really solid film noir with some interesting twists. Shot in San Francisco on location, very, very nicely, and it looks gorgeous on Blu-ray. So bravo again to Warner Archive for pulling out a really good one and giving it the Blu-ray treatment.
Sweet. What's next, Wade?
You know what? Let's do some listener mail.
Listener mail.
Listener mail.
Listener mail.
Is that the new theme song for them?
Yes. Wait, can I just say there's two
Yes.
Jeepers Creepers films out?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Hit that fast.
I just have to say this because, Jeepers Creepers was one of those low-budget horror films that somehow did pretty good. It's directed by Victor Salva, who would become controversial for other reasons.
Yeah, for child molestation.
Exactly. This is
Although
from 2001,
he did Powder. Powder is a good movie.
It is a good
I'm going
movie.
to stand up for Powder.
That is true. Just because he fondles boys doesn't mean he can't make a good movie.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but yeah.
So this is from 2001. It kind of hit a bit of a nerve. It stars Justin Long. What happened to that guy? And it takes place, it's these two kids. They're driving home, and, they're run off the road by this crazy maniac. And, they wind up getting attacked by the maniac, and he's Jeepers Creepers.
Yep.
So they wind up making a sequel to Jeepers Creepers 2 years later, which is ironically called Jeepers Creepers 2. And this one is not nearly as good, and it's a bit of the same thing, except instead of a pickup truck in the first one, I think it was a pickup truck, it's a bus. And this one is a bunch of high school kids, a bunch of athletes, and they come up against the Creeper. And so I don't really like these movies. I think they're kind of stupid. This one does have Ray Wise. I like Ray Wise. But I do have to say, Scream Factory did a great job with both of these. It's a 2-disc sets, both of them. A lot of special features, then and now. A lot of interviews with the actors, some of the actors, surviving actors, audio commentaries. They did a great job. Jeepers Creepers is probably worth that kind of effort just because it's a bit of a genre and mini cult. I wouldn't say classic, but kind of a mini cult thing. Jeepers Creepers 2 is just really terrible. Although the executive producer, I'm just saying, the executive producer, one of them, of Jeepers Creepers 2?
Yes.
Francis Ford Coppola. He was an executive producer on the original and the sequel. And by the way, putting it out there will be a Jeepers Creepers 3. It was announced last year. And Coppola will co-produce it.
Really?
And Salva is going to direct it and write it.
Well, how about that?
Now, the thing is that we're 13 years beyond the second one, so I don't know what kind of, appetite there is for a Jeepers Creepers 3, but bizarre, because Coppola doesn't really make movies anymore. He had that moment when he went to Romania and did a bunch of weird little movies that no one cared about, and now he's kind of disappeared again. But the one thing he will be doing is Jeepers Creepers 3.
Wow. All right. Well, there you go. All right, so let's get into our emails. Philip Vader says, and that's Vater, Philip Vader, does not want to be associated with the dark side of the Force. He says, please address the following topics. 4K UHD video as referenced in episode 33, and screening room as referenced in the Star Wars episode. You mentioned you would talk about these technologies more. Okay, screening room. Mark, do you want to describe what screening room is?
Oh, you going to make me do that?
Well, in a nutshell.
In a
nutshell? I guess, well, let me take a stab at it, and you can correct me. So, what's his face? Sean, the
Sean Parker.
Sean Parker, the Napster guy who we all know is basically looking exactly like Justin Timberlake. Isn't that amazing? So, he portrayed by Justin Timberlake in the Social Network. He came up with this idea called screening room, which you got a few directors to back, like J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg, and or was it Zemeckis? Zemeckis or Spielberg or both of them? Anyway,
I don't know that Zemeckis had anything to do with it.
Well,
maybe
he got a bunch of name directors to get on board with this, which was this idea that you buy this box, basically a set-top box, not different from like a Roku or an Apple TV or anything else. and except that it is a proprietary system that lets you pay $50.
It's $50.
$50 for a first-run movie in your own house. So you could go and pay $15 to see it in a theater, or you could pay $50 and have it pumped right into your house, and then obviously charge your neighbors at $10 a head and make a profit on it. I mean, I don't see how that's going to stop anybody from making.
It's the stupidest thing in the. First of all, okay, if I was like some hacker from from Indonesia, I would buy a box, and I would just I would set up my camcorder on a nice tripod, so it looks particularly beautiful, and I would just start pirating the crap out of all these movies. Like, what's to stop people? $50 is not that much of an impediment.
Well, the idea behind it was they apparently had all kinds of anti-piracy schemes, and one of the things is the studios are concerned that people are going to movies less and less and less. There's an Atlantic piece that's out right now talking about how millennials just aren't going to movies, and the studios are a little panicked because even though business is growing overseas, this is going to be the least aggressive, the fewest people going to see movies in theaters in the United States since the silent era, since the 1920s, okay, which is an extraordinary statistic if it's true. Now, to me, that then just stop trying to sell movies to people who don't want to go to see movies. I mean, then you just got to make movies for people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever age group. But of course, the studios are all owned by companies that can't sell toys and video games to those people. They don't really care as much about movies as they do about the other stuff that the movies help them sell. Those are not valuable demographics for them. So they're determined to somehow make millennials still their core target audience. That's the problem. So anyway. To get back to Screening Room is not going to resolve any of these problems for the obvious reasons that Mark pointed out and that I pointed out. But what really has been a death knell to Screening Room is the fact that all these other name directors, despite all the name directors he had on board, suddenly Cameron comes out against it, Soderbergh, a million other people. I think there were like 2 or 3 other really named directors that came out against it.
Well, but by the way, it has to be said that one reason why there are some exhibitors who are okay with this is because Screening Room will give exhibitors a cut. Yeah,
but then the National Association of Theater Owners came out against it. So it was like, well,
but that was Screening Room's way of getting exhibitors on board with an idea that, in theory, takes business away from them.
Yeah.
It's a stupid idea.
So anyway, and on the other subject of 4K, there's a lot to be said about 4K, and it's changing every day. And the big thing with 4K, and I'm gonna try to line up an interview with somebody who can talk to the tech of all of this from Sony or Samsung or LG or one of these companies, so that I can let them really speak to it, because the issue is not so much the higher resolution as it is HDR. And HDR is what is confusing everybody, and specifically HDR stands for high density resolution. Is it? You know exactly what HDR stands for?
I do not.
It's I think it's high anyway. So HDR, what HDR means, if you look online at sort of some explanations about HDR. What it does is it resolves the contrast issues between light and dark parts of a frame. So in other words, whereas let's say those amazing Gordon Willis shots in The Godfather, where where everything is lit with like a candle, or Barry Lyndon, where it's literally lit with a candle, and everything is the contrast and the depth of field is very shallow, and the contrast is very, very, you can see slight details in the shadows. Film could capture that, but no digital process has ever really been able to replicate that on a television. The idea here is that HDR is a technology that enables you to actually do that. And so now on an ultra-high-definition TV, HDR is the technology that facilitates that. However, HDR requires certain hardware specifications, and you have to make sure that everything talks to everything else correctly. And it's a little bit confusing because a lot of first generation stuff is not compatible with second generation stuff. You get into the HDMI specs, so it is a little bit confusing. But we will try to sort that out in the coming weeks. I'm going to see if I can get a real tech expert to speak to that. And let's see. Then we've also got an email here from Kevin Lower, who sent us a ton of great intros. And Kevin says, how do you calibrate your TVs? Is it to preference, or is there actually a right answer? Everyone always says how bad they're set up when they're out of the box. How do you accurately portray what a film director really wanted? And the same could be said for theaters. I saw Deathly Hallows Part 2 twice in different theaters, days apart. One was considerably darker to the point it was distracting because I'd already seen it once with much more detail. Theaters have a problem with setting up. It depends if it was projected on film or whatever. Even digitally, the lumens that are put out by different projectors are different. You need to make sure that a theater has a sufficiently bright projector and that they're using the right screen to go with that projector. And sadly, a lot of them don't. But anyway,
Well, also something else too is that a lot of times theaters, mistakenly to save money, they'll turn down the brightness on the bulb.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. I mean,
Roger Ebert he used to write about that extensively. How he would see films that looked underlit, but actually the projectionist had turned down the bulb, thinking that it would extend the life of the bulb.
That's less of an issue in the digital era because the amount of electricity that is required to generate light from a digital projector is really not that much. In the old days where you had those arc bulbs, those things are. If you were to look at the door of an old projection booth back in the original film days, there's always like a fire department warning because if one of those bulbs blows, it blows. It is a big deal, and there's poisonous gas involved. Those things are insane. Those bulbs, they're very dangerous, and they burn really hot and really bright. And they were very expensive to replace. So that, I think, probably had a lot to do with it, too. I mean, those are like $2,000 bulbs or some obnoxious amount like that. Anyway, then specifically as to calibrating TVs. So my answer to him and my answer to everybody else who's asking this question is that it's changing a little bit now because it's different for an LCD versus a plasma versus an OLED. And the best recommendation I could say right now is to follow the instructions in the manual, whatever the manual tells you. Take it off of whatever that the mode is that they use for the floor. When you look at it on a showroom floor, the mode is always really overcranked so that it's super bright under fluorescent lights like at Best Buy. You don't want it on that. You want to put it onto your movie mode. Even TV will look better on the movie mode, much more naturalistic colors. But otherwise, I would say Spears and Munsell, M-U-N-S-I-L, the Spears and Munsell Benchmark Blu-ray edition is really, really good. Digital Video Essentials HD Basics is now in its in a new edition. I think Spears and Munsell also has a new edition as of 2013. And then there's AIX Records Audio Calibration, which is specifically to get your speakers and your audio calibrated. So I would say go with those. Digital Video Essentials, DVE, Spears and Munsell, and AIX Records. Those are the three that you want to use to get it done. Some people really like the Disney WOW disc, which stands for World of Wonder, which is very cartoonish and very typically Disney, where you're kind of walked through this theme park of calibration processes. It's a little bit strange and juvenile, but I have heard people swear by it, so I will not dispute that until I've had a chance to try it out. All right, we are right at the end of the show, Mark. I'm gonna leave the rest of these anime for next week, and we will have Tim Cogshill with us, hopefully next week, barring any interference, and he will be able to confirm that those things are called persuasions.
They are not called persuasions.
They are called persuasions.
Never heard that in my life.
Yeah, well, you're going to hear it a lot more. All right, with that, we are done. We'll see you guys next week.